I'm in my room at 5 a.m. sharp. I always had to get up early back in my village because it's the only time I have any peace and quiet to myself. But here I got a different reason to wake up early, so I can be ready for the day. Just to be sure, I lift my head to check the clock on the wall. While it's dim in here, it's not completely dark thanks to a magic stone lamp. On the ceiling, my eyes don't even have to adjust. Human engineers figured out how to make magic stone lamps. The gods call it cutting-edge technology. It was the discovery of the century. Even the gods acknowledge the influence of human engineering techniques. These things are amazing. Clover and I stayed up a little late last night playing cards. I unfortunately lost the first couple of rounds and the second I turned it around on him. Shakti caught us and told us to go straight to bed. Even though she's Adri's big sister, ever since I came here it's like she's my big sister too. She'll scold me when I do something bad, but she'll never make me feel bad on purpose. Back home I used to think that I hated being scolded, but here when she does it I don't feel like crying afterwards, well, not all the time. I kinda like it when she lectures me because it makes me feel like she cares about me, which is more than I can say about someone I rather not talk about. Okay Kreku, another day, another criminal to punch in the face, I said as I stretched my arms, but when I tried to get out of bed I felt something heavy on top of me, warm and soft, but I didn't bring any of my stuffed animals, mainly because they were destroyed, but I don't hate the sensation, but I really gotta get up. I looked under my blanket and, wait a minute, Adri. Did she sleepwalk? I guess there's a first time for everything, but now I have to figure out how to get out of this predicament. I'm sure I could get out from under her without waking her up, but she's so soft and cuddly, I don't want to move. She's an extremely good body pillow, a big and pretty body pillow. With all due respect to her, I wrap my arms around her squishy body. If cotton were a liquid, this is how it would feel. This is bad. I really won't be able to get up at this rate. She even smells nice. Ah, a tiny yawn. Okay, I'll just slide out of here and, HMPH. She wrapped her arms around me and pulled me into her chest. I was truly in a predicament. Adri is older and stronger than me. I doubt I can break free without accidentally hurting her. She's been so kind to me since I got here that hurting her is the last thing I'd do to her, but what is this soft sensation that hugs my face? Wait a second, what are these soft melons on my chest? Don't tell me, it's them. Boobies. I was in between two soft pillows of happiness. They're much bigger than I thought they were, so close too. No, she's your friend and you're not supposed to have such thoughts about your friends. Well Adri, if I move in this position I'll probably end up doing something inappropriate to her, and if I don't people will think I'm a massive pervert. Either way I lose. I have faced monsters, criminals trained in karate swords, and recently started learning how to use a spear, but no amount of training could prepare me for these incredible weapons of destruction. Kreku, time to get up. You usually wake up around the same time as I do, so I don't understand. He locked eyes with me still in his sleep attire. Okay, I see what the problem is. He tapped her face. HMPH. Hey Adri, time to get up. HMPH, 5 more minutes and you shouldn't be in my room. Sis will kill you, she said in a groggy tone. But I'm not in your room, you're in our room, but you can rest a little longer if you release my little buddy here. She seemed confused and looked down at me in my most shameful experience. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry Token, I didn't mean to suffocate you like that. She immediately let go and I immediately climbed down the bunk bed I was sleeping in and fell on my back. Adri, what the heck are you doing in my room, and more importantly why are you in my bed? I yelled. Ooh, that's right, I was coming in here to say goodnight to you too, but you were tossing and turning in your sleep, so I was worried you were having a nightmare. So I decided to stay with you until you settled down, but I ended up falling asleep in the process. But it was a pleasant sensation. You really soothed me too, she said without a hint of shame or embarrassment in her tone. Adri, I yelled. She almost gave me an embarrassing death by boobies, although Grandpa would have been happy to die that way. And admittedly I would prefer that over the near-death experience I had yesterday. Adri, you can't do dumb stuff like this. I'm a boy and you're a girl. If you do that, what if I was the type of boy who would do something indecent to you? I asked in a panic. Oh no, I know you'd never do anything like that, but even if you did I wouldn't entirely mind, she said. I froze up. Wait, is she serious about that? That's a joke, I cringe. Okay Kreku, don't let the beautiful woman sleeping in your bed distract you from your goals. Get dressed so we can get started, he said as he started getting changed. Adri, to her credit, covered her eyes at least. Why are you boys getting ready so early in the morning? We have to patrol the city all day, so we should rest while we can. And every time you do rest while you can, you end up oversleeping and Shakti has to drag you out of bed. Clover finished changing and I put my battle suit on. It's a mix of Adri and Shakti's outfit, but it has longer sleeves. White gloves and boots, a blue undersuit, crotch armor which is not visible to anyone, and light armor on the outside. Good thing I got a spare chest plate. I said. Good thing I got some extra arrows stacked under my bed, he said. Wait a minute, why are you two boys gearing up like you're going into battle? She asked suspiciously. Dungeon diving. I asked Ms. Shakti last night and she said that Clover and I can get a head start on the day. We'll be laying low for a while since the Evolus will definitely want us dead, so we should become as powerful as possible. I flex my arm. Adri didn't seem amused by our goal. Can't you boys train at home with sis? She asked. That was my plan, but Ms. Shakti refused. She said she's too tired to spar with me. She thinks that if I'm backed into a corner I'll blast her with my magic, and to be honest I probably would. You know, if you're so worried about us you could tag along and get some Excella for yourself. Clover insists. No thanks, too tired to get up so early. You kids have way more youthful energy than me. You and I are literally the same age, Clover said. Oh well. My mom always said that no means no, so I say no to dragging my feet. Let's go, Magic Master, he said as we grabbed our bags and headed out of the door. Bye Adri, sweet dreams. I closed the door as we set out on our way to the dungeon, before I realized that she was still in my bed, so I turned around. Get out of my bed, but it's all warm and toasty, and I like it because it smells like you. My face turned beet red. You're a freaking weirdo. Kreku, let's go. I have a spare bed sheet for you, so don't worry about it, Clover said as I lost my bed to the silly girl. How could someone as serious as Shakti be related to someone as silly as Adri? Asterisk. Well, that was an eventful way to wake up. I sigh to myself as the brisk morning air chills my skin. Main Street in the morning is very different from how it is in the afternoon. The streets feel so much wider at sunrise, no people, no noise. Every one of the two-story shops have their shutters closed. The shops look like a long stone wall all lined up in a row. The eastern sky is getting brighter. I'm not alone on the streets, either. A few prums are setting up their store here, and a group of dwarves are talking in a cluster over there. By the looks of them, they're adventurers like me. I wonder if I'll run into them in the dungeon later on. I might have a lot in common with them. I got up, got ready to prowl the dungeon, escaped from, left my goddess behind, and am now on Main Street. So you got a pretty good wake-up call, I'd say. Oh shut up, I was suffocating, I told my cocky friend, but you were sandwiched between the two cushions of happiness, a rare treasure most men would say. You know, it wasn't entirely bad, but I can't think such things about my friend. That's plain weird. You're a little kid that fights grown men in a daily basis. Has normal ever been a word to describe you? He asked. So where in the dungeon are we heading today? He asked me. Well, Papa said with my current status I could probably head to floor 7 as long as I'm super extra careful, I told him. Sounds good to me. Newbie killers will never be able to touch me. I'll get 'em right between the eyes, he said. Are you sure your arrows will do the job? Dad said killer ant shells are pretty strong. Don't worry, last time Shakti gave me some higher quality arrows. Perks of being an adventurer in a monster tamer familia. Even though we just run around fighting bad guys, the dungeon was here before the gods came down to our world. There was a city above the dungeon, too, just much smaller than it is today. Guyana. Ha! The 6 of them. Shoot out after me, all of them tenacious fiends. I turn my back to the group of kobolds. I'm still in lower level 1 of the dungeon. All I can see are the dark blue walls and ceiling as I run by. The floor spreads out in all directions in this skyless maze. You think you can take me on? I've killed your kind before I even got my Falna. I spun my spear around as I slashed 2 of them at the same time, killing them instantly. I heard a cracking sound from behind and realized that I didn't need my weapons right now. You guys are lame, the evils are way tougher than you. I took a karate stance and one swiped at me and I caught its wrist, pulled it towards me for an uppercut, kneed it twice and I flipped it over my shoulder before I karate chopped it in the throat, causing a loud snapping sound. The snapping means I killed it. I looked at the other kobold that were previously trying to hang up on me and they were actually strangely cautious. What's wrong? You overgrown doggos aren't scared of a little kid like me, or are you? I launched at one of them, kicking them in the head with a flying sidekick and then crashing into the wall, dying instantly. The next one tried to bite my head off, but I crouched down and turned, delivering a back fist to its snout, causing its teeth to shatter. Then I back kicked it in its spectrum, then I raced towards another, readying a double throat chop to its neck. Then dropped down, did a leg sweep and sidekicked the second to last one in the back and it crashed into the wall. I heard a snapping noise when I kicked it. I probably broke its spine just now. At last I was face to face with the leader of the pack. Guess wolves work in packs no matter what kind. Time slows down. I lock eyes with their leader. I jumped in the air and raised my leg up high. Falling axe kick, heel connected with the top of its head and blood gushed from the spot I kicked it and it fell on its back. HMPH, well, I'm all warmed up now. Not even a scratch on me. I guess I've grown so much fighting with the Evolus the last 2 weeks, the upper floors are too easy for me now. Watch out, Clover shouts. I looked up and saw a lizard-like creature and it pounced at me, but an arrow went through its chest and Clover hook kicked it off course before I got ambushed. Nice save, Clover, thanks, but you should really check your surroundings before you declare victory. Unlike the surface monsters are born endlessly down here, he advised. A little embarrassing that I made such a stupid mistake. Don't worry about it, it happens. I don't think you would have died from a sneak attack like that, but just remember to stay on your guard. I nod as he titles his hat. Welp, let's grab our spoils and get to floor 7 inches, he suggested as he took out his pocket knife. Okay, we dragged all of the dead bodies in one place and I got my own knife out and kneeled down to remove the crystals from the dead bodies. These are their power sources and hearts, and as soon as I removed it, the kobold's body turned into dust. I've been fighting these monsters for years now, even before I got my Falna. The adventurers of old were capable of handling monsters without Falna, and my dad wanted me to learn how to fight without a god's blessing before I received it because he was able to do it himself around my age. I primarily used my magic at first, but it got the job done. He hoped he could allow me to use a sword, but my mom refused to let me use any sharp things. It took a lot of convincing to just get her to let me go hunting with him at all. But I eventually joined our village dojo and learned karate, and I started using it for monster fighting. By the time I was 8 years old I could dismantle a kobold with ease, but the ones down here are a little tougher to beat than the ones I grew up around. I think that's everything, Clover said as he stood up, but I saw something shiny near his boot. No way, Clover, a kobold claw. He looked down and picked it up. Nice, things are finally coming our way. Guess this makes you a lucky Clover, I quipped. Hey, that's my line, you little thief. We head down a staircase and we eventually skipped floor 6 and finally arrived at floor 7. Crunch crunch, the sound of something munching and breaking rocks. Light emanates from the ceiling and the walls were pale green, and the tunnels were a lot more complicated than they were on a beginner's road. If this is floor 7, I hate to see what the middle floors look like, said Clover. I drew my spear, not wanting to take any chances, especially after yesterday. Even if the monsters on this floor are weaker than the man I fought yesterday, fighting monsters is different than fighting a person. Killer ant up ahead, he said. I got this, L. Let me fight it first so you can get an idea of how to deal with them. Remember, your status is a lot lower than mine. I didn't feel good saying that, but Dad said that you need to have at least one basic ability in the D rank to be here. Killer ants are basically the worst kind of monster for a newbie adventurer to fight with. What makes it different from regular ants is that they're way taller than I am. A little over 5 feet, and I'm 11 feet tall according to my doctor. Eek. And I thought the ones at last year's picnic were a nightmare, I said as it swiped at me with its claws. Take this. I lead in with my usual karate punch, but despite making contact with it, punching it was like punching hard metal. Ow ow ow, that hurt. I immediately remembered what earned them the name Newbie Killer. It's their hard shell and strength that puts even the War Shadow, the other newbie killer, to shame. Guess punching them isn't gonna cut it this time, I said. Those claws can carve people up before they even breach their defenses. Adventurers who fight on the 5th floor on a regular basis don't expect them to be smart and cunning, but in my experience monsters are smarter than they look. Blocking doesn't seem like an option either, so I better dodge like my life depends on it. Because I'm pretty sure it does right now. I backflip to gain some distance between us. It charges towards me with its right arm raised up high. Dodging would be the easiest way to avoid damage, and I shouldn't be cocky, but if I could reflect a single strike from a level 2, then I can definitely use the flow technique to make my first move. Spear-style flow technique. I point out the sharp edge of my spear and clashed with its claws, and I redirect it as I parried out of the way. Then I spun my spear around my back to gain some momentum, and I raised it up high while within striking distance. I strike its arm, and its shriek of pain filled my ears as its right arm and weapon went flying through the air as I disarm it. "They're not much of a threat now, are you?" I said, feeling proud of myself. "Kraku, hurry up and finish it off. Remember that a killer ant will spread its pheromones to call for help from its fellow ants, and humans can't pick up on it, so don't take any chances and end it now," he shouts. Crud, he's right, that completely slipped my mind. The recommended method of dealing with a killer ant is aiming for the soft spots in between its hard shell. Since I cut off its right arm, its right side is completely defenseless right now. It's over. I raised my spear up high and brought it down in its neck, but it only cracked the shell. This one should do it. I did it again with all my strength, and a shocked expression formed in the insect monster's face before I decapitate it, and purple blood spilled from its now headless body. The head landed on the ground right next to Clover, who flinches a little bit, and the body fell lifelessly on the ground. Yeesh, when Dad said that these are the most difficult thing for a rookie adventurer to fight, he wasn't kidding. I said, "You think? You nearly gave me a heart attack out there. And why didn't you use your magic to get it over with?" "Because my magic is for emergencies only. Besides, I rely on my magic too much and it doesn't give my other abilities a chance to grow. I should limit the amount of magic I use outside of life-threatening situations. Besides, I could have a mind down here." He sighed. "I'm not one to talk, but please just be careful. If you had to try that hard for one killer ant, then I better stay on my toes." I admit that it took a lot more out of me to kill the killer ant than I thought. Still, I feel like I could fight a couple of more ants, especially since I'll remember to kill them quickly and understand a little more about how they move. After collecting its magic stone, Clover gears up for battle. "Okay, so I'll aim for the joints, and if I can, I'll use my knife to finish it off." "Okay, but leave the majority of the killer ants to me until you get a little stronger." As much as I hate to admit it, that first one really spooked me when it attacked. I said, "Then why are you smiling?" "Because I kinda like the fear. It makes it exciting to fight something you're not sure you're gonna beat." Right, pointing arrow. Battle on floor 7. Each section of the dungeon has its own world, with unique layouts and characteristics. The walls on levels 1 through 4 were a pale blue, and monsters that appeared there were usually just goblins and kobolds. There weren't many types of them, either. The monsters closer to the 4th level were a little stronger and smarter than those higher up, but it could still be said that this area was the easiest for newbie adventurers to conquer. If they went in alone and avoided being surrounded, or better yet, formed a party, then there was very little risk in prowling these floors. Everything changed on the 5th level. The walls turned a slimy green and the layout got more complicated, but that wasn't all. More unpleasant monsters, like the 7th level's killer ant, appeared in larger numbers. Plus, the birthing interval of monsters was much shorter on the 7th than the 4th. The moment an adventurer ventured into a dead end, they could be swarmed from all sides by monsters pouring out of the dungeon walls. They couldn't just go lower when they got bored on the upper levels. Adventurers needed to build a strong foundation before going deeper. Not just a strong status, they needed experience, good equipment, fast reflexes, and general adventurer knowledge, among other things, to survive. Newbie adventurers needed to spend time learning and growing on the upper floors first. This was even truer for solo adventurers. However, Gisha, Kraku and Clover were an exception to this rule. Clover nimbly dodged a purple moth that came from above, and his knife connects with its wing as he spun around. As it was falling with its wing torn, he lifted his crossbow and he plunged his knife directly into its chest, ending its life in an instant. "You had the territory advantage, the high ground, but I still killed you without even needing my arrows to shoot you down." "Awesome work, Clover." RRRRR. 2 more killer ants appear, and both of them looked at each other as if they knew what they needed to do. "You got the one on the left and I'll take the one on the right side. Sure you can handle this thing." "I killed a flying monster with just a pocket knife. I think I got it under control. Besides, I can't have you hogging all the Excella for yourself," he claimed. "But your status isn't I told you that. He loaded his crossbow and he fired 2 arrows aiming at the exposed joints of the killer ant on the right. Status isn't everything, the arrows hit them in the joints and it fell on its face. And 2 more, he aimed 2 arrows at its head, the first one cracked its shell and the second one broke through it, piercing the head, killing it. Shakti knew Clover wouldn't pass up a chance to take out killer ants despite the fact he had no business fighting them. So she gifted him arrows that were guaranteed to penetrate the shells of the newbie killer. Not bad, but let a pro show you how it's done. Kreku led in at a high speed with a flying sidekick that hit the killer ant directly in its head, causing it to flinch. He knew he couldn't break through its hard shell with punches and kicks alone, but a full-power flying sidekick could at least make them flinch. The insect-like creature, leaving itself open to attack, gave Kreku the opportunity to draw his spear and he slashes through its left arm and leg while its guard was down. The killer ant toppled over, now unable to move with its entire left limbs cut off, and it was unable to move or attack with its remaining parts, but Kreku left its right side unscathed on purpose. Clover was curious about what he was up to. Just because you have a hard shell doesn't mean you're too heavy for me. He grabs its front arm and threw it over his shoulder. Judo slam. It hits the ground and now on its back more of its body unprotected by its magic shell were exposed. Take this, he drove his spear into its thorax and he penetrates the magic crystal and the life fades from its eyes. Blood spurts out and he removed his spear and he grins at Clover. Show off, he said with a huge smile, showing his pride in his comrade. Kreku gave him a thumbs up, but not too long after he slew the killer ant another swarm of monsters came charging at them, but he was concerned about the dead bodies on the ground, making it hard for him to fight. I'll get the dead bodies out of the way. I know I can't keep up with you yet, so you go on ahead and I'll join you against the next wave. He gave a thumbs up. Thanks to Clover's assistance, Kreku was able to get to work slaying the next wave of monsters immediately. A needle rabbit came flying towards him, trying to impale him with its horn, and he parried out of the way. A karate chopped its neck, killing it instantly. He no shell protecting you. Every other monster that wasn't a killer ant instantly fell at his hand. Kreku, despite being in Orero for only 2 weeks, has a year of experience with his fauna and spent his early childhood fighting monsters in the forest with his dad, who at the time was already a level 4. Before converting to Genisha Familia, he received his fauna a year prior from another god outside of Orero, but he was given permission to convert after a year. With his karate skills and the training he got from his dad, he already had a huge head start, growing stronger in the dungeon. Another one. Clover immediately shot 2 arrows at the killer ant, giving Kreku enough time to dismantle it with a serious judo slam and another spear thrust into its thorax. We took it out in no time, Kreku said, panting from exhaustion. Yeah, I think we make a good team. Meeting you was probably a blessing in disguise. Aside from receiving my actual blessing, despite the hardships we've faced, things out here aren't so bad once you get the hang of it, Clover said. I agree, Kreku said. But I think we should call it a day. We killed quite a few purple moths, and the effects are not immediate, but if we stay here too long we'll be poisoned for sure. Kreku pouts. Oh come on, don't be like that. I wanna fight more. I know I can get stronger than I am now if I just fought a few more monsters, he said like a stubborn child who didn't want to leave the playground despite it being sunset. Would you rather get stronger or end up dead? You can't get stronger if you suddenly start slowly dying. Kreku sighed. Fine, I'll be patient and call it a day. Good, now let's collect the spoils and get out of here before more monsters are born. They seem to spawn more rapidly than Beginner's Road. With that, the two of them end their day in the dungeon by collecting the rewards. And Kreku was something unusual on the dungeon floor. Hey Clover, look at this. I think it's one of those shells that the killer ants have, but what's it doing here? Shouldn't it be a pile of dust like the rest? He asked. Perhaps it's a drop item. Let's hold off on cashing it out and see what we can learn about it. Sure thing. On their way out they reached Beginner's Road and were about to exit the dungeon. Ace, get back here, I said, it's time to go home now. Let me fight a little longer. Just a little longer. But something catches Kreku's attention. Hold on, I know that voice, he said. Clover was confused, but Kreku knew exactly what he was seeing. An elven woman with green hair and a light green dress holding a staff was calling out to a girl with blonde hair and a doll-like face void of any emotion. She was hacking and slashing through any monster that came in her path. She looked to be at least 2 years younger than Kreku, but unlike him she didn't look like she was having fun with fighting monsters. She seemed to be consumed with rage and anger. I'm not asking you again. Come back here now, it's been an entire day and you're clearly exhausted. As long as I can still fight. I haven't finished yet. This girl was clearly not in their level, or at least not Kraku's if she's still on beginner's road, but something about her expression and the way she was fighting scared him. Wait a minute, isn't that the Wallenstein girl? I heard she was really something else and Dad wasn't kidding. You mean the little girl that joined the Loki Familia? This is her. He nods. She seems so full of hatred and malice that I almost didn't recognize her. Kraku twiddled his fingers and he was hesitant to go past her and the High Elf. They recognized him personally and he wanted to avoid interacting with them out of fear. Let's go home. What's the big deal? It's not like they'll attack us. It's not that green hair knows me and my dad. And I'm scared if she sees me she'll know that I was on floor 7 without an escort. Just act natural and go past them casually and nothing will happen. He took Clover's advice and they started to narrowly walk past the first floor. It's working. They don't suspect a thing, so you're not gonna even say hi when you see someone you know. That's bad manners. Both of them froze up. But how'd you? A top-class adventurer has pretty sharp senses, and even if I didn't, your stealth could only fool an amateur, she said. Hi Auntie, fancy seeing you here. What brings you to the dungeon today? It's the dungeon all adventurers come here. Kraku laughed suspiciously as he held the killer ant shell behind his back. Right, of course. Silly me, always forgetting the small stuff. Welp, it was nice to see you, but I'm very tired from floor 5, so I think I'm gonna be going now, he said as he tried to scurry away. Hold up, what's behind your back? She said with a menacing glare. My spear, that's where I keep it. I mean, what are you hiding behind your back? He started sweating profusely. My hands. Then show me your hands. He showed her his left. And the other one. He switched hands immediately. Now show me both hands. He hesitates. Now, she said with a menacing glare. He tried to show her both hands, but the shell fell out of his holster on the ground next to him. A killer ant shell, but that wouldn't be possible for you to have unless you went to floor 7 today. Clover was confused about why he suddenly felt so terrified of her. Who is this woman and why is Kraku so scared of her? Wait, why am I so scared of her? Kraku Tojo, she said as if she caught her child doing something naughty. I can explain, and I thought you'd learned your lesson after going to floor 5 on your own last week. But I didn't go by myself, I brought Clover with me. See my good buddy Clover, I didn't go on my own, so doesn't that count for something? She sighed. I suppose it's an improvement of last week's incident and neither of you seem to be hurt, but I will be discussing this with your dad later. Kraku clings to her. No auntie, please tell him, he'll be mad at me if you say that out of context, and I don't want to disappoint him. Okay, calm down, I'll explain it in context. Will that make you feel better? He sighed. Yes ma'am. And don't call me ma'am, we're not strangers, I've known you since you were born. I call my mom that, he said with a blank expression. Which I'm pretty sure she doesn't feel comfortable with. He saw A's. Oh hi A's, slay any good monsters lately? There's no such thing as a good monster. I will kill them all and get back what they stole from me, she said in a menacing tone. Uh-oh, sounds like she had another nightmare last night, he said. How'd you know? The High Elf asked. I've noticed she seems more chill on certain days compared to others. The elven woman tapped her face. I guess she did seem tense this morning. Now I feel guilty for not noticing her distress, but I still need to bring her home, but she's being as stubborn as a mule. I might have to use force to get her to cooperate. Kraku stood in front of her. Wait, we don't need to use force, I have just the solution. He marched towards her and stood in front of the girl. Hi. There, I'm not sure if you heard, but it's practically sunset outside, time to go home, he explained. Out of my way, I'm not finished yet. The dungeon will be here tomorrow morning. You don't have to stay here forever. Believe me, I wanna get stronger too, but you can't go giving Auntie a hard time just because you don't wanna go home. She raised her sword. A's, I got this Auntie, I've been in her shoes. She tried to strike him down but he blocked with his pocket knife. Hey, you can't go attacking people either. I was gonna offer you a potato snack if you were good, but since you wanna go attacking people. I'm sorry, I was just mad. I had that dream again. I keep having it over and over and I can't stop thinking about how powerless I was, how powerless I am. I hate it, I simply hate it, believe me, I've been there. I haven't exactly gone through what you did, but I know what it's like to think about the time you were powerless. Don't let it remind you of how helpless you were. Think about how far you've come. I've been watching you and I don't think the A's from 2 weeks ago could have slain half as many monsters as the A's Wallenstein standing in front of me. It might not feel like it, but you're not alone. There are plenty of people who want to get stronger so they never have to go through what they had before coming here. But it's important to take care of yourself. You won't be able to slay monsters if you're overworked now, can you? She shook her head. I'm sorry for attacking you. I didn't want to hurt you, she said, bowing her head, but he simply pats her head and smiles at her. Apology accepted. Now let's cash in our spoils and spend it on potato snacks. Perks of being an adventurer is getting paid for the bodies you catch. She sheathed her sword. Okay, good. Now listen to Auntie and don't give her a hard time. I know she's a little scary, but she really wants what's best for you. Okay. He walked away back to Clover. Riveria was impressed with him being able to reason with her. I'm sorry Rivera, I didn't mean to cause you trouble. It's okay. I'm sorry I didn't notice that you were in distress. I should pay more attention to your emotional state, she said. What did you say to her? Clover asked. I told her that she looked nice today and she was willing to listen. All of a sudden, he said, knowing it was an obvious lie. Sure, we'll go with that. After they reach the guild hall they cash out. Whoa, this is a lot of money for just one day, Clover said. Yeah, no kidding. Kreku said as he marveled his sack of money. You're keeping the shell? Yup, wanna see if I can get some use out of it, Kreku said, tossing it up and down. Floor 7, what's it like? Ace asked. Please don't tell. It's wild. There are monsters everywhere and they're born at a much faster rate than beginners road. There's this killer ant that has a shell like this one that regular attacks can't break through. You essentially need to know what you're doing or you'll be in major big time trouble, he said, drinking an antidote provided from the guild. Are they really that strong? Well, it's a little more complicated than just saying that they're stronger, but yes, what's most challenging is getting past their magic shell. You need to aim at certain areas to get the job done. Like the joints and thorax. You probably won't be able to get to floor 7 for a while, but just remember not to waste energy on hitting their magic shell with a low quality weapon or your bare hands. And they gotta die fast or they'll call for more. Ace's eyes widened with shock and disbelief. I must get to floor 7 as soon as I can. I will train twice as hard, twice as much as twice as long with Finn and Gareth, she said as if he lit a fire in her eyes. You really had tell her, didn't you? Riveria said angrily. I didn't know it was a secret, she asked, so I just told her what I learned. What's the big deal? It's not like she'll be able to go there anytime soon. Not with my permission, but you know how Ace is. I'm sorry, Auntie, she sighed. I guess it can't be helped. She probably would have asked your dad and he would have told her without thinking twice. Oh yeah, where is Papa? Diane Seant Familia, that moron dove head first into the mouth of a dragon and got burned. I'm amazed that he survived at all. Kreku chuckles. Did he kill it though? Yes, and to his credit he rescued the supporters and gave us a chance to get away. So I can't tell him off, but he's gonna get an earful from me when he gets home. A dragon's mouth, Clover said in shock. Exactly how strong is your dad exactly? My pop is level 5, he beat up a level 5 and he was able to level up. Yikes, a top-class adventurer is a completely different animal, isn't it? And he's still weak compared to the adventurers of, ahem. Riviera cleared her throat to cut him off. Never mind, I'm tired and hungry, so let's go home. Bye-bye Ace, bye-bye Auntie, tell Dad I said hi and I love him. And I love you too. The high elf blushes slightly. As soon as he left the guild hall she smiled slightly. Guess I'm not scary enough for him. The following evening we came home and I asked the other members of our clan for a tiny favor. You want us to do what with you? Nothing extreme. Just want you all to try to fight me all at once. I said to one of the men, that is the definition of extreme, and you're a kid and I don't feel comfortable with us ganging up on a kid. I can totally understand where they're coming from. It would make them look like a bunch of bullies, but they're not really trying to hurt me and I need the experience. Look, please, just 4 people at a time. I gotta get my skills fighting groups of people up if I'm going to survive this dark age. He rubbed the back of his head. Well, still 4 on 1 doesn't align with my morals. How's about 2 against 4, said Clover, sliding in. Bath's free and I refilled the hot water, he said. If it's 2 against 4 then it'll be more than fair, right? We'd still have 1 more person over you, he complained. Just do it, Tanaka, They're not gonna stop asking till you budge, and we could use the training to get them up to stuff. Shakti said, you know I'd probably leave him alone if you reconsider my request, I said leaning towards our captain trying to look as adorable as possible. You're cute but the answer is still no, I slumped over, well my boyish charms failed, I shall be waiting for you and 4-5 others in the morning, okay Craw, hold on 5 others. Now that Clover is joining the Freya we'll need 3 each. We'll all be relatively even in terms of status right, no Clover's status is the worst of them all, Shakti points out. But he killed a purple moth anyway, I said. You what? It was going to poison him. I had no choice, he said, defending himself. Make it 4 for Clover, he groans. The following day we are standing in the yard training with our fellow members. Destroy Craiku, all 3 of them said as they swung their swords and knives at me. Tanaka had a long sword, Moshi had 2 knives and Korin had twin blades. Tanaka led in with a swing to the left and I reflected it and kicked him in the solar plexus and swung at him only to be struck in the back by Moshi's knife and I landed on my face. And Korin came to finish the job with his left blade and I rolled out the way in time and got back on my feet. Individually we can't beat you but together you stand no chance against us, I took a fierce stance with my spear held up, you could use that fancy magic of yours, no I don't. Like using it on other people and I depend on it too much, so I'm kinda putting it on stand still. Tanaka grew concerned hearing that, kid this is the dark age, we do what we need to survive, I am doing what we need to survive. I'm training with you, besides, if I don't learn how to fight without it, what'll happen if I run low on mana and pass out? I said, guess you're right, but we don't have any mages and these guys only agreed to go along with your crazy request because it would help prepare for the evil's magic swords, they said. Huh, I didn't know that. Okay, you want some magic, you got some magic. I shot a fireball Moshi who was hit directly in the face and I immediately covered my mouth in shock. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to hit you in the face like that, I thought you'd. Before I finished my sentence a sharp blade cut me across my chest and the force from the strike blew me away, and I looked up at Moshi and he only had a few burns on his face but he didn't have a nasty scar like I imagined. Don't get soft on me kid, if I was your enemy I would have killed you already. I got back on my feet, but you're not my enemy, so I care if I accidentally hurt you. See, this is why I couldn't do it, who would wanna hurt you? I went silent for a while. It's the first time I've seen people who were reluctant to hurt me. A lot of people, I said, and they all gave me a sympathetic look. How about you stick to water ball and when we turn the heat up you can use more powerful spells against us, is that cool? Tanaka asked. Yeah, I think I can manage that. I glanced at Clover who was running for his life using his crossbow and knife to the best of his abilities but he was being torn up. Don't drop your guard, said Tanaka attacking me with me barely dodging the sword. I shot water ball at him and he dodged it and I tried rushing in for a karate chop but I found myself on the defensive blocking a knife and twin blade on each side. If it weren't for the range my spear provided me, I'd be in major danger. In the end I wasn't able to beat any of the and I ended up wearing myself out. I'm so tired now, I took out an elixir and drank it to replenish my stamina. So are you gonna quit this crazy plan? He asked with hope in his eyes. Are you kidding? I couldn't think of a better way to start the day. Not even my karate class was half as fun as this session. Same time tomorrow morning and don't be late or I'll ambush you all. All of them seemed devastated, but despite the difficulty I really did enjoy it. Fighting the 3 of them was even more intense than venturing floor 7. They've been here for quite a while and they might be stronger than they're letting on. But then again I'm holding back my magic to build my physical abilities, but other than that I was giving it my all and I barely got more than 2 hits against each other. Man, group battles are the best. I probably have an unhealthy love for combat, which is strange because neither of my parents are violent people. Dad said he fights out of necessity not enjoyment. I picked up Clover and gave him an elixir. You still alive buddy, you are truly insane, this better produce good results or you're dead to me. He said, still groaning in agony as I heal his wounds. Are you that mad? I asked him, dead to me. He said, but I couldn't help but laugh because I could tell he was being dramatic. Token, Idris said as we were about to head out for the day. What I had breakfast, I said, you trained this morning and you still want to go to the dungeon? She said with a worried look, yup, I gotta go get stronger, besides you know how Shakti's always struggling to meet the rent deadline, while an increase of income will be beneficial for her, she sighed. Just promise me you'll come home to me, that goes for you too Clover, she said as she was no longer acting like that goofball that snuck into my room but she is reminding me of Shakti. Ah, I thought you'd be glad to be rid of me. I'm serious Clover, I heard that evil has been sneaking into the dungeon and ambushing rookie adventurers, I couldn't imagine losing you to them. She talks like she knows from experience. You know I'm too tough to be beaten by those creeps. I'll be back Adri, and we'll earn some extra money, a cake just for you. I know you love sweets, that's thoughtful, but as long as you stay alive, that'll be sweeter than any kind of pastry. She touches my nose. And sis will be sad if you die too. She doesn't show it but I think she's really fond of you now. She got really fussy when you were missing 2 days ago. Adri, don't say stuff like that to him, Shakti yelled. Oops, gotta go, I'll see you tonight, and if you boys don't come home around curfew I'm hunting you down and I will sleep in Kraku's bed for a week. She doesn't mean that last part, Clover assured me. And I mean it. I glanced at him, I've been wrong before, why my bed?